listening to the Otakuology Podcast with Otaku Mike and Jin Graves.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Otakuology Podcast. I'm your host, Otaku Mike. With me, as always, is Jin Graves. I feel like I had a little tongue twister there at the beginning.
Probably so.
I was like, da, da, da.
We should do that one episode. I'll write you down a tongue twister anime related and see if you can say it.
But we are back with another episode today, almost to episode 100. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there.
Right.
But we are back with another episode. We are looking today at Megazone 2-3, Part 1 to be exact. Jen, let me ask you something. When I was like, hey, let's talk about this show, did you know anything about it?
No.
Not at all? None?
Nothing at all, no.
Nothing at all?
No.
So this is an anime from 1985. It's a robot anime. As we said, it was called Megazone 2-3 Part 1. To give you a little history lesson, this was directed by Nobuo Ishigori. And he is a very, I probably just butchered his name, to be honest. But he is a very, very prolific anime creator. Do you want to take a guess on what?
I don't know. Have I ever heard of him before?
You probably have.
I mean, you butchered his name.
It's Nobuo Ishigori. Ishiori. I can't fucking read. It's Ishiori. The print. No, it's Ishigori. The print was just very small. But he did stuff like Battleship Yamato, Macross Frontier, Organs.
I know Battleship Yamato.
Legend of the Galactic Hero. He worked on that. So this was originally going to be a 13-episode TV series. Megazone 2-3 was. It was called like Mega City at first, I believe. And they were all ready to go back in they started developing in 1983. And
which, you know how shitty that kind of is? Because back in the day, 13 episodes. I mean, I know it's common today for us to have things that are 13 episodes and it makes sense. But back in the day, if it wasn't the full 52 episodes, one for every week, or anime-wise 26, where it was doing half a year, I mean, it's just kind of crazy how it was hey, we were planning on doing 13 and they couldn't even have the funding for it.
Yeah, true. Which is very, very crazy to think of when you look at it like that. Because I mean, there are plenty of different anime that have this happen to them. There are numerous Gundam shows that have done this prior, or before. There's a lot of shows that actually do this that we don't actually know about. You have to go into the development of the show and whatnot. Oh, it was originally titled Megazone 2-3 is what the name of it was called.
Okay.
That was the name of it. There were some other very prolific directors on this particular show, and key animators and stuff like that. A lot of people from Macross came over to work on this, actually. And so what happened was they got their funding pooled from their toy company. So all the funding that they had going into creating this show got pooled, and they were like, hey, let's try something different. Let's go to the direct-to-video market. And that's what they did. They took everything they had and created this OVA Megazone 2-3. At the time, it was just Part 1, which we'll get into that later on when we talk about Part 3 and Part 2 later on, whenever we end up covering those, But we're only talking about Part 1 right now. So they took all this stuff and like they took all the story that they had and they kind of sort of condensed it down into an OVA, which is like over like I think like 80 minutes to an hour long. I believe it is.
Something like that, yeah.
And so they're like, okay, let's release this. Well, let me tell you this. This is the second ever OVA ever released
Of all time. What was
of
the
all
first?
time. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up. It was some kind of I want to. It was some kind of like sci-fi thing. It was like a Mamoru Oshii or oh, what's that guy's name? It was some like big sci-fi director. I think it was a Mamoru Oshii thing. I don't remember off the top of my head. I heard about it. And I was like, I never heard of this anime before in my life. I was like,
You're not real.
I was like, I don't know what this is, but I kind of went to check it down.
Otaku Mike has never heard of you. You're not real.
You're not real. I don't know what you are. But this film did inspire a lot of other films like The Matrix and this movie called Dark City and all this kind of stuff. So they did put this out, and it was actually a big success for them. This made them a lot of money. Like it sold over 250,000 copies, I believe, within like the first year at the time,
That's good.
which was unheard of in 1985.
Right? Because that, I mean, in today's standards, that would be like a lot.
Yeah, it definitely would. And I have to say, this has been on my to watch list, almost like an anime bucket list, I would say, to watch eventually, because this has had a pretty interesting history over here, starting with oh god, I'm losing my train of thought.
Starting with,
It started with, I can't remember what the name of the company was. It was a company. I can't remember what it was. But there was a company.
just look on the fandom site, okay?
I'm not on the fandom site. They were licensed by Streamlined Pictures. Then it was picked up by ADV. It was lost by ADV. So there's been multiple releases of this.
Yeah.
And then it finally got re-released by Animego recently. You can watch it on Retro Crush, Tubi TV, or actually just buy the Blu-ray for like $25. You get all three OVAs for like $25. It's not a bad deal. Very, very nice OVA.
I feel like that should be a paid sponsorship.
Paid sponsorship from Animego right there. You know what we're talking about right there. You know, right
you guys
now.
just got to shut up.
Yeah. We'll send you guys a memo for a bill for our sponsorship.
we don't want very much. Just send us a couple DVDs.
We know where y'all are established. Your building is.
We're gonna drive by. Hey guys.
Yeah, so our OVA starts out in a really interesting way, I would say, which we don't get your normal title sequence. We see a kid named Shoji, and Shoji is driving around on his motorcycle, very much the 1980s, very much the motorcycle culture. He's just driving around. He almost hits this poor young girl with this motorcycle. I think Shoji was being very reckless at this time.
This is true. So I very strongly got like the beginning of Yu Yu Hakusho vibes from this.
Really? How so?
Like not so much like where it's somebody jumping out in front of a car, but him being the driver of it.
Oh yeah, and he almost hits her.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, we almost had like a female spirit detective right there for a moment.
She's got to get Shoji sees this young girl named Yu, beautiful green hair, cute 80s anime girl, you would say the least, and Shoji's just like this I don't want to say like biker punk guy looking guy, he but he's on his Suzuki riding his motorcycle, and he almost hits her. And she is,
He's very much like the guy from Grease, you know.
I would say more 80s, not 50s.
Well, I just mean, you know, like that mentality
He's like a
of
biker gearhead, typical.
yeah,
What, maybe like early 20s,
reckless protagonist.
because he's not a child. He's like probably like late teens, early 20s, maybe, you know.
Yeah.
But he bumps into her, almost nearly kills her, like we said. The contents of her purse falls out. She gets mad at Shinji, and he's like, "Hey, come on, hop on my bike. I'll get you to where you need to go in like a couple minutes because the traffic is backed up."
Hey,
And
baby, let me
he's like,
get you
"Hey,
there.
hey, girl, let me get those digits from you. You know, let me help you out." So I feel like this is very obviously stranger danger type of situation, but
This is true.
she did not listen to her stranger danger radar in this part because
I'm just
uh
gonna tell you, I don't feel like she like listened to her Stranger Danger radar at all through this whole movie.
no, not at all, not at all. But she needed to get to the Hard Rock Cafe where she works, and Shoji gets her there, you know, with his reckless motorcycle driving. She just hops on this motorcycle, and I have to say one thing about this that I really like this anime is honestly, like, the driving sections are very well animated.
Yeah,
Like, if they're smooth and zigging and zagging out of cars, you know, the very much technical mechanical detail on the little details on the motorcycles very much reminds me of Riding Bean. Like,
very true.
you know, how well that was animated as well. Which,
I completely agree with that.
shout out to our Writing Bean podcast that we had. One of the best animes of all time. Just saying, right there.
That is true. I mean, that is. I remember calling you and be like, "This makes me feel like I'm watching Writing Bean again."
Yeah. So he gets that, and we get this very much like a montage of him and his biker friends, and I want to say those are their girlfriends that they're with, or just friends. I can't remember. But these two other girls named Mai and Tomoe, and they're going out having a night on the town, you know, living their lives, watching this idol named Eve, you know, who's this big pop idol, and, you know, having fun. And Shoji gets a call from his friend. Do you remember what the friend's name is, to be exact?
I thought he said it was like Choi or Joy.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm just gonna tell you, like most of the names in this, they would bring it up once and like never
Mhm.
bring it up again, and I was
Well,
like,
he's not like really important to the
"Am I
story.
supposed to remember this guy?" Well, the first time I was kind of like perusing through this and watching it, I was
Uh-huh.
kind of sitting there, and I guess I had missed it where he was bringing up the new bike,
Hmm.
and and I was like, oh, okay, well, I thought he had walked off, like gotten away, and then they come back to where his body's like mangled up
Oh yeah, so
in the
yeah,
thing, and I
we'll,
was like, what did Mike tell me to watch?
we'll get to this. So his friend, I don't remember. It's not important because he's gonna end up dying anyways. But his friend he's like, "Hey, Shoji, I got this thing. I need to show you. We need to do something with it." So he works for this like government facility or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, I got this bike. It's not a Honda, it's not a Suzuki, it's not a Kawasaki. I got this bike, and it's called the Garland, but they think it's called like the Bahamut, you know."
Yeah,
Like, it goes so fast. It goes like Indy car speeds, you know, like Formula One. Like, it's so fast. It's state of the art. And I took it. I took it because they want to use it like as a weapon or something, you know. And there's these people. They're after me. You know, I need you to help me keep it safe. And which, why would you go to Shoji for you to keep a prototype, one of a kind motorcycle safe?
I don't know.
You know?
I don't know. Maybe it's something you do with your best bud.
And this thing is like, this is a big motorcycle. It's
No, no shit. This thing is huge. Every time he drives it, I'm like,
how
is
is he
this
gonna,
is this like a Ford truck or a Chevy truck extended cab with the double wheels in the back?
like
Because this thing is
very,
huge.
it's very much if he took like Kaneda's motorcycle and like made it chunky and like extended it like a couple more feet. It's
Right.
huge, but it's a fucking cool motorcycle.
That's true.
Like it's fucking cool, I'll tell you that much, But so and these people show up, they're like, oh, these are the guys we're looking for, they call them like the GS or whatever. And like, yeah, we're gonna need that bike back. These guys in their black men in black suits, their sunglasses, and it's nighttime, and they're in this parking garage, and they're like, okay, no, we gotta run. And the lights go out. We don't know what's happened. And Shoji, I don't know if he like accidentally hopped on the Garland or he thought he was getting on his motorcycle, but he takes off in like fucking like 4x4s this car. And we
Yeah.
look back and his friend is mangled and shot and dead. I kind of wonder if Shoji accidentally killed his friend.
I don't know. Maybe because the motorcycle was pretty messed up too.
Yeah. And it was dark. It was very dark.
Right? That is
So like
the
what
first of the two dark scenes for me in this.
what happened to this guy? He just, when the lights come up, he's dead and Shoji's gone. And these guys are chasing after him, and we get one of like I like this chase scene. There's a lot of chasing in this anime. But Shoji doesn't know what to do. He's driving through on this high powered motorcycle where these like other motorcycle slash um, mechs are chasing him as well, getting away. Very beautifully animated sequence. He's smashing into cars, and they're like fucking Coke cans compared to his like big giant motorcycle.
Right?
He's very much trying to get away, and he does get away. Uh, so what does Shoji do? He goes to his like mechanic grease monkey friend's house, uh, and he's like, "Okay, we're just gonna hide out here. Here's the motorcycle. We're just gonna stay here, and while we're here, let's just paint the motorcycle red." What does
Right? Because
painting
when
the?
it like a brown,
It was like a brownish orange color, maybe like a yellowish brown color
yeah,
ish. It was a weird looking color. So they go there and they're like, "Hey, let's just paint this." Do you think them painting it, they thought they were gonna hide the facts that this
that,
prototype motorcycle was
that it's oblong, it's one of a kind, and yet
one of a kind?
if we paint it, nobody will tell the
No,
difference.
no, nobody's gonna know about it. It's
Just
okay.
nobody will know. Shh.
Nobody knows.
Yeah,
But so the G men or whatever they are called, I don't remember what they're called.
the
Uh,
G man.
the, they're looking for Shoji, so they're at his house. They're going around. Shoji's using his friends to basically scout around and see what's going on, and they're tailing his friends because they figure it out obviously that Shoji is trying to figure out what's going on. And they were like, okay, let's wait this out, and see if it dies down, see if anything in the news pops up. Nothing in the news pops up whatsoever. So do you
Right.
remember what bright idea Shoji gets to do after this?
Yeah, this is where he's like, "Oh, let's out him and put it on the news."
Because the biggest news thing is Eve does like this news segment. She's like a news pop star, like I don't know. She's just a big pop star, you know.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, do you want to take this part where he goes to? It was an odd scene, I have to say.
Is this the one where he drives up to the telephone thing?
Yes, yes,
Oh man, yeah, this is weird. So he
yeah.
drives up to the telephone booth, and I mean it's futuristic because it looks like you have like regular telephones that are in there, but they have a screen that you can see
Mhm.
people and talk to. It seems very like um
Blade
Pokemon
Runner.
esque, wherever they have those screens
Uh huh.
at the Pokemon centers. That's kind of what it reminded me of with that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, he gets on there and he's talking to her and he goes, "Where do I need to take this for you to see it or whatever?" And she says, "Oh, just step back so I can see it."
Yeah, because he's like all up in the camera's face.
Yeah. And then he's yelling at her the whole time or
Uh
whatever, which I feel like this should have been the first thing that we saw where something was off with Eve.
huh.
Um and maybe if we had known earlier, well, you probably knew. I didn't know. Um
Which we'll
about
get into.
her being a certain system.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it's just funny because then all these people, you see him step out of the thing so she can see the bike, and all these people are just standing around there looking at this bike, and
Yeah.
the bike is like 3 times the size of the phone booth,
Yeah.
and you're just like, good God.
Yeah.
But I completely agree. I don't understand why they would change the color of it because that thing sticks out like a sore thumb no matter what color it is.
It does, doesn't it? Like it's just like, oh my god. Like what's going on here? Why like why is this like how, like you can't hide it,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And then leading up to this part, I felt like we had kind of a little thing, and I might be skipping over a little bit of stuff.
Hmm.
We had where um, he went to check on what's her face, the blue haired girl.
My
Yeah, yeah,
we're
and
talking about Yui. Because he's kind of pursuing Yui. Because
I
he's
guess
already
it's Yui.
yeah, he's been kind of wanting to pursue Yui because he really has a thing for her.
And at this point,
Oh
I
no, this is yeah, because he has a thing for her, right? And then
yeah,
after that is when Tomoe shows up, and Tomoe
yeah,
uh, wants to like film with him, basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because she saw the thing on the air or whatever.
yeah. She's like, "Oh, this is a cool motorcycle,"
Of course,
But
this is the part that kind of threw me off a little bit too, because it almost seems like her working at the Hard Rock. That's not what she does. It almost seems like
well, she's
she's more of like a call girl.
okay. So this is what happens. We'll talk about this. So
Okay.
after the whole exposure of the Garland, he goes to Yui and he finds out that his two friends from the beginning, Mai and Tomoe, are actually her roommates. And I don't remember what Mai does, but Tomoe is wants to be a director for like films, and
Okay.
so Yui wants to be is an inspiring actress. That's
Okay.
what she is. But she works at the Hard Rock to get by, basically, as like a struggling actress, you know, and whatnot. Um, so what happens is she ends up going out to something. I want to say it's like a party or something that she invites him to, and he goes to,
Hmm.
and she ends up leaving with this other guy, and he gets a little jealous, and he's like, what's this creepoid doing with Yui, So he follows them to this hotel, and he's like looking for them with like this almost like heat signature voice thing that's on the Garland, which is really funny because he like comes into like people like fucking and stuff, and like are people fighting or like talking or having fun or whatever, you know. And they comes onto them, and as he's trying to do this, he's backing into cars that are in a parking lot
Yeah.
and just destroying them. And so he he also fought previously after this, he finds out that his the Garland can transform into a robot. So he transforms into a robot and busts through where this guy, they're basically him and Yui, this sleazeball guy, are about to fuck basically, and he's trying to use his power as a big executive or whatever movie guy
Yeah.
to have his way with her, and she thinks if she fucks him, she will get a big leading role in the next movie. That's what
Right.
it is. I also thought that she might have been a call girl, but that's not the case.
Okay.
Yeah, she's just desperate to have a movie role. That's what it is, you know.
Desperate girl.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Goodness.
But things don't go so well, and he like smashes through the wall as they're getting ready to like, he's like forcing himself on her, and he just grabs her and like just jumps out the fucking window.
Right.
Which I was
Well,
like,
and I thought it was funny too on this part because she goes, "Oh, you're being too hard," or
yeah,
and, and you know, I'm thinking about it from his standpoint, and I'm like, he must think like they're actually doing it, you know.
yeah,
And then I'm sitting there, and I assume the guy was sucking on her boobs, just because the angle that we're given. I don't know.
yeah.
But everybody at one point or another has to channel a little Dark Schneider, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Because I was just like, okay, this is what's happening. Got it. Okay.
I mean, he is obviously a sleazeball, and he got what he deserved. He got the biggest giant cock block ever,
Right.
you know. But
By a giant robot.
that, you know.
I think more
But
people
so
get cock blocked by a giant robot. What's going on?
so you and Shoji leave, and they're both mad at each other because she thought he was interrupting her, and she thought she was going to get a big role, and she was upset. And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? You don't need to be, you know, pimping out your body like this."
You don't have to be promiscuous.
He basically slaps her, and he's like, "You know, you don't need to fucking do this. You're better than this. You know, you're better than this."
You're better than that.
And this is where we get after this. Tomoe gets with Shoji, and she's like, "Oh, let me film this action sequence for my movie because I want to make this movie." And this is where the police start showing up. We're going over the big plot points in this movie. We're skipping over a
Right.
bunch of stuff.
So let me tell you this right now on this part, because I just got done like a week ago watching the third season of Lock and Key. And you know, in that they have the whole movie thing too, where they use the keys to film it or whatever.
Yeah.
It really made me think about that because, hey, you have this giant robot. Why not use it for a movie? You know,
like I mean, she's pretty smart in that aspect of using this for the movie, and you see her getting all these really cool shots of the robot and stuff, and action sequences and stuff. And it's
true.
funny, like, which we'll get to it in a minute, but like the police are chasing her because he's obviously driving kind of recklessly on the highway, and he goes down this other abandoned like tunnel in the road, and they end up going in like an elevator, but it's like a part of the road. And
yeah, it was kind of like a freight elevator, I think.
yeah, almost. And they find out the big, which kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The big crux of this, they find this city, and it's like destroyed, and there's a city on top of a city, like, or like Like looking down on the ceiling, there's a city and there's another city. This is an abandoned city.
Yeah, that they just built on top of.
It is built on top of, and it come to find out that they're all in like a simulated city. From what I've gathered, they're in a simulated city,
They're all
like
basically on white base.
and the Bahamut is basically a big supercomputer, and it controls the events of the world. And the Bahamut is in this big abandoned city. It's a big old supercomputer, and they find out that they're actually living on a spaceship, like 500 years in the future, and they're living in a spaceship. And they find this
Do
out
we know it's
because
500 years in the future?
yeah, they said it's
Okay.
500 years, I believe, since the end of like the destruction of the Earth. Like the Earth
Okay.
isn't even around anymore,
I
from
can
what
see
I
that.
know.
I can see it.
And the military, they were developing this new type of weapon, these weapons to avoid the Bahamut's detection, apparently. And I guess that's what the Garland was. I'm not 100% sure exactly.
Probably.
This is where I get a little confused, and I feel like I'm gonna have to watch this again.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But we get this cool fight scene between this guy named BD. He's a big military guy, and Shoji, and we find out, like we said before, they're actually in outer space, and there are these two big megazones, which Shoji's in one of them, and there's another megazone, and apparently they've been at war with each other.
Yeah.
These two megazones have. And Shoji kind of barely makes it out alive, and he he very much starts to question like what is real? Like his whole life seems to be a lie. Like it's almost
Yes.
like they don't really outright say it in this one, but they're using Eve, the pop star, to basically recruit people to fight the war against the other people. Like,
Oh yeah. And that's another thing. I mean, I feel like there were really strong vibes in this too.
yeah,
Because did get that little scene where it was like two of his friends or somebody,
yeah,
and they were monitoring it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I get to do this, and I'm gonna join the army." And I was
yeah,
like, "Oh god, this is gonna turn into one of those."
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Do you think so? Talking about this and kind of pulling it away history wise, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that people almost kind of use this as propaganda to um, maybe in the same sense use it for people to be okay with joining the army?
Oh, I mean, Captain America was fucking used for propaganda
That's
back in the
true too.
day. You know,
But
like
but I was just being in this one. We
yeah, in
know
this one,
we know Captain America was used for that.
like, because people don't know about the other megazone.
Yeah,
Like, they don't know about the other whole civilization that's out there trying to kill them. They don't know about the supercomputer. They don't know about like they're living in like a basically a fake Truman Show type of world.
that's true.
Like nobody knows about this, but like the military knows about it basically.
But I mean, like for us, like
Oh,
people,
like us propaganda?
yeah. So like somebody watched this movie and goes, "Hey, you know what? I'm
I
gonna
don't
join the
know
army."
because I honestly really truly feel like it has a negative aspects.
Okay,
Like I feel like yes, you can definitely be called upon to like or feel the need to join the army or military when something bad happens. It's happened throughout the years,
right,
especially like in like World War II and stuff like that.
right.
You're like, oh, I need to serve my country, because my country was uh like attacked or whatever. Like how many people did that when 9/11 hit?
Right.
A lot of people. So I don't necessarily think it's a pro war. Like I don't think like it was trying to get people who were watching it to join the army,
Right.
because it doesn't necessarily show the military in a positive light
Right.
necessarily in this movie. It's very much like Cloak and Dagger's, the military going behind the backs of the
Other
you know,
people.
all the people, basically.
Yeah.
You know, um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of how it goes. Like the big revelation that they're all in a fucking fake world,
Yeah.
and so they're doing this, and he's fighting his way through, and that's when he finds out that he goes to sneak into Eve's recording studio, because he said there's something because Eve is constantly trying to contact him through the Garland and talking to
Right.
him and stuff like that. And so he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go find out what's actually really going on," because he got this one thing from BD, the bad guy, the sort of pseudo military bad guy. He got something from him saying, we're in a war, basically this and that. People don't know what their their lives are like. They're all stuck in the 20th century, basically, which I
Right.
want to talk about that later on. How they're all stuck in basically the 1980s.
I mean, yeah.
But like, so he goes to this recording studio to confront Eve, because obviously she's at the forefront of this, and she keeps trying to reach out to him and stuff like this, and finds out that Eve is not actually a person. Eve is a computer program that is trying to recruit people. Like,
Right.
not like, I mean, she is also a part of like Bahamut and stuff like that. This is where it gets a little fishy, and I don't really remember a whole bunch of the details, because I do feel like I have to watch this again, and this is only part one of a part two story. So,
Yeah.
and he goes out and he's like, I'm gonna take out Bahamut, I'm gonna destroy it and stuff like that. He leaves the place, and he gets this really cool fight scene, and where he's being chased by a bunch of police and stuff like that. And I talked about this with you, where they're chasing the police, and Lupin and Jigen show up in a little cameo that you didn't notice,
Right.
where they are the police officers chasing Shoji. And I was like, it's very much like almost like a blink and you miss it type of cameo. But
Yeah.
we didn't talk about the other big cameo, which was we totally forgot to talk about how Shoji worked at McDonald's. Like, I want to
Yeah.
know how they sprung that and put that into the movie or the OVA.
That's true. And because, usually you have to change something where it can't be insinuated.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did get like where it was McD.
No, they fully said like McDonald's in the movie.
Yeah.
In it.
But I mean, like with the sign, there was somebody standing in front of it, so we only got to see McD.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was that. Well, I mean, and the Hard Rock,
Yeah, yeah. But they don't actually show the Hard Rock.
that's true. They just
They
say the
just
name.
talk about it. I mean, there's some other things in here that are pretty like blatant. Like, they blatantly, there's a movie that's referenced, because they go to the movies at one point where they show like Streets of Fire, which is an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Which we'll have to watch. That's supposed to be a pretty good movie. It inspired a lot of like 80s anime. Like, this one movie
Okay.
did. Like, it was like a movie that came out. It kind of flopped over here, and it got really, really big over there. But yeah,
Okay.
it's supposed to be like a pretty decent movie, Uh, so yeah, they talk about how they are in a simulator, and there's two ships and stuff, and we get the big end fight between BD and Shoji. Now, let me ask you, what did you think of this big last fight? Or Shoji is basically going off to try to kill
Um,
Bahamut.
there was another cameo that
There was.
that isn't going to be mentioned or touched on or whatever because of Gundams,
Uh-huh.
but you know, he he did bring up basically the whole thing, talking about how they weren't allowed to use guns where they were at, So he told him to grab these things, and it was basically a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And, and I would akin it to more Gundam-esque stuff, like the original or whatever, but it was green. I mean, we knew it was a lightsaber, not
Yeah.
a beam blade from Gundam where it's the pink and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you think of this big last stand battle that Shoji was gonna go and like kill? Because I mean, a lot of the military people die. Like BD kills a bunch of them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because
I for as much buildup as we kind of had to get to it, I felt like it was a little bit like it was still a good fight, but I felt like it was a little bit of a letdown. Um, just because I didn't feel like there was very much like meat to it. Does that
it
make
was
sense?
it was I thought it was very well animated, and like
Yeah.
him like using different tactics was really cool.
Yeah.
Like because s- I'm never gonna get the vision of somebody's eyeballs fucking popping out of their head now and then blowing up.
Right.
That was fucking rad as hell. Like
Right.
this anime, like there's so many explosions, this and that. Like destruction is
Well,
done in this movie.
and I would definitely throw this as being, with some of the other ones we've watched, like Riding Bean and stuff like that.
Oh
Some of
no,
those,
we didn't talk about how Tomoe got shot in cold blood.
right, right. But like some of the other ones, when we've watched them, I mean, they've been really tame. Like there
Yeah.
might have been blood, or there might have been a little bit of like sexual promiscuity or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and this one had a little bit of that too. But when it really came down to it, like with the different things, I would have to strongly say this is like
Yeah.
one time when we reviewed Lily Cat
Yeah.
on a separate streaming thing that we did before. Um, just as crazy as it did, because I mean it was gory
Yeah.
and a little bloody and things like that. I felt like the sex scenes that were in this, or
Uh-huh.
the almost sex scenes, really weren't that big of a deal.
No, but it
If
was
a kid
nice.
yeah, if a kid accidentally walked in the room when you were watching this, I don't think it would be a problem. You just shoo them back out, you know. But I felt like the death scenes when things happen like that,
Yes.
it was
The
very
death
much
the death
like,
scenes are pretty crazy because we didn't even talk about the whole thing where like Tomoe is working on her movie and one of the military agent guys comes in and just shoots her right in the fucking head. And
yeah,
like blood is everywhere. There's brain matter on the back of the wall, and this is actually we kind of
well,
we skipped over it, and it's like
and
that's
this is you're only talking about when she was shot. Whenever they
yeah
find the body, they
yeah
have a part where her head's leaning down, and you can tell there's a big ass hole in the back of her head.
and this is the catalyst that kind of makes Shoji go into high gear, and he's like, I'm just gonna fucking kill like
Yeah,
everybody who because that was his friend, that was a friend of his, and
yeah,
it affects all of them
right,
pretty hard
right.
because it's just out of nowhere, and they want to like, take her out because she basically has footage of the garland, which
She spoke the truth.
everybody has kind of seen the garland already because Shoji's been zipping around town on this fucking thing.
Right,
Who's to say like they don't other people don't have pictures of it,
right,
like why do you got to keep it a secret?
right. This is true.
Why did Tomoe have to die? What's up with that? You know? But
Right,
yeah, as we get, we got to the ending of this and the fight. I like as we're kind of jumping around a little bit. I like the way it was animated and like how he kind of like hit his gun and like hit up in the rafters, which I was kind of like, okay, how do they not see the giant robot hiding in the rafters of this place? A giant red robot hiding out here. You know,
Yeah.
I don't I but I liked it because it was crafty. It was crafty and like trickery, and he takes out these people and like they blow up and stuff. And like the one thing that's really good about this is the action scenes are really well animated, and I think it does a really nice depiction of what an actual giant robot fight would look like. Like it wouldn't be pretty, and there would be a bunch of collateral damage,
Yeah.
even though this city that they were in was already destroyed, basically.
This is true.
You know, but I do have to say, when we got to the end and like Shoji is like um beaten by DB, or is it BD? I can't. It's BD. When he's beaten by BD, uh,
Yeah,
I
remember Big Daddy?
Big Daddy, Big Dick, whatever his name was. I don't remember what his name was,
He didn't
but
sleep with anybody. He can't. We don't know if he's
honestly,
like a big pervert.
like, I didn't know his name halfway through the anime.
That's also true.
But I do feel like a little bit that the ending is somewhat anticlimactic and is left open-ended. Do you want to talk about the ending?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk.
There's one part in particular. So I guess we're having like these weird ass flashback moments,
Yeah.
and like slowly, it's
Shinji's,
supposed to be giving him like strength.
yeah, Shoji is basically like beaten, and the garland has been disabled.
Yeah, he had to, like, the head got ripped off of it. He had to crawl out of this hole that it stuck in. You know, blood trickling behind him. His knees real fucked up. You know, he has to use like a walking stick kind of sort of thing. So, you know, and then it kind of ends like with him throwing the stick away and going, you know. But we have all these kind of like flashback scenes, which some of these little flashback things, I don't actually think we saw them.
I don't know if we did.
But the one part in particular that I wanted to bring up was the actual scene that they show as the flashback when he throws the stick away and starts running. So it's a scene where the blue-haired girl, what's her name?
Mai?
Yeah. Where he, I guess, was talking to Mai, and he's sitting there, and he basically backhands her.
Oh, that's Yui. That's Yui.
Okay.
Yeah. The Yui's the green-haired girl.
He basically like slaps and backhands her.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there at this point, and I'm like, does him imagining like him controlling her and like slapping her to like do what's right give him the strength to run?
Well, he's out there because he crawls like out of this other city into the fake city, you know. And he's like, his knee, like you said, his knee was fucked up and stuff, and like BD goes off to like do something else because there's a war going on outside, basically, you know. He just leaves him there to the kind of, I think he leaves him there almost to die. I can't remember exactly what he does, but he's not there. And so he can't move, and you know, Eve is trying to talk to him and asking him to like upload this thing or whatever, and he like ignores Eve. And he gets out of the garland, and you know, he's walking away, and he's got his big walking stick that he's using to, and it's almost like he's very much he is very much defeated, but it seems like he's very much like determined to get back to Yui and to I don't want to say finish the fight, but like it seems like he's very much determined to finish the fight because or he just wants to get back to Yui. I'm not for sure. It's very much left open ended, and we'll have to watch part 2 to figure out what actually happens.
Yeah,
because it's very open ended.
Yes, because I was sitting there like, okay, we did this, and then I had to rewind it a couple times. Like, is this the ending?
Yeah, I was very much taken back,
Yeah.
which is funny. Like, so the last one, the first one came out in 1985, and the next one comes out a year later in 86,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Just think about. And then the next one comes out in 1989,
You're like, I was so young.
which the third one's broken up in like 2 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what did you? Because we kind of glossed over a lot of the some stuff, and just gave the main plot points.
Right.
What did you actually think of this anime? I want your honest opinion.
I'm a little on the fence about it.
Uh
I
huh.
I enjoyed it, but I did feel like it was a little out there in the
Hmm.
aspect of how weird it was kind of put together,
Yeah.
and the fact that there were some parts that were kind of boring
Hmm.
for it to have such good action packed parts,
Hmm.
and I really feel like they focused in some areas, which I mean, you got to take into account too when it was made. I
Yeah.
do think like they focused on some areas that they could have cut out. Um,
There's actually a shorter version of this.
yeah, I mean, like the whole sex scene part with him and Yui or whatever could have been cut out.
So you know what I noticed in this?
Yeah,
So every other girl you would see like naked, they
yeah,
had like nipples, but they weren't like colored in,
yeah. And then hers were pink.
and hers were pink, like colored.
Yeah,
Why did she get the special nipple treatment?
I don't know. I really think it was like a distance thing because it seemed like it was because
Maybe
they were closer up.
it might be, yeah. But that part was kind of funny too. He's like, I want you. Just, no, hey, how's it going? Like, I just want to fuck you, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and there's another scene where I think it's BD, and
Hmm.
he wakes up out of the bed, and we don't see the girl that's laying there.
Yeah, we do.
Not when he's just laying there by
Oh,
himself,
yeah.
from the, and then he sits up, and you still really can't see her, and then it's kind of like they pan back, and there she is. So you're like, when did you show up? But we have this weird part too, and if you're listening really well, the sound kind of stops.
Yeah.
Where she lights the cigarette,
Uh-huh.
and she's sitting there smoking to it, and he's talking to whoever it is, and then she pulls a cigarette out, and I feel like when she pulls it out and she's sticking it in his mouth,
Hmm.
there's kind of a moment where they didn't put all the slides together right, because
Yeah.
it almost seems like her arm goes up and then it's just right in front of him. Like it never really makes a full like motion to come around.
I might have to rewatch it and see if that part.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there like, did I see this right?
And
So,
yeah.
but there's, like we talked about, there are some parts of it where things were good and happened, and then where other things, because of the production and it getting partially cut, that they had to put together and work with what they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, on some things, they did have to skimp a few things here and there, and
Hmm.
other stuff like that. So
Yeah. I have to say, this makes me love hand drawn like 80s, early 90s animation even more. Like,
yeah,
even though like, oh, we got these cool fight scenes or whatever these days, there's something about like all the little details that like the older OVA animes and stuff like that used to like put into their animes, like all the
yeah,
details of like the mechanics, the way they fight, the way you would see somebody's eyeballs fucking pop out of their head,
yeah,
like
yeah.
all.
No, and it hits different too. I
Yeah.
I really feel like there's more of a calming thing to it. Which whenever you get to the episode, well, I guess when the listeners get to the episode of Star Wars Visions, there's actually one company that actually says they still do that, where they
Yeah.
hand draw the backgrounds. And watching, these old ones that we've watched and stuff before, and how there's still a modern day company that does that.
Yeah.
Seeing the comparison of how we have that, and then we have ones that use like a 3D model or something like that.
Hmm.
I mean, you can tell it seems a lot different. It seems a lot better because, um, I guess to an extent, it kind of seems like somebody is cutting corners. I guess,
Yeah, maybe a little bit, or
using
it
using the
depends on the
CG.
budget. Who knows? I mean, they also had like these very much prolific animators and stuff like that working on these.
Right,
So like,
right.
I mean, there's not a lot of
Well,
people who do
and
robot stuff anymore.
the other good thing for me and for the listeners
Uh huh.
is this is the first show in a long time that we haven't heard. Well, the CG in this wasn't quite up to par. There are parts that I watched in it where it just didn't seem like it lined up too well.
I just have to say, I mean, there were parts where the animation doesn't line up too well in this. Like, a lot of times there are pretty nice backgrounds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe the character model goes off a little bit in this, But like, other than that, like, I really like the animation
Hey,
in
hey,
this.
buddy, but you can't complain about the CG on this
No, I can't. I can't complain
because
about the
there is
CG.
none.
I can't complain about the CG that I know of that's in this. I know. But one thing that we didn't touch upon, I really like the music.
Yes, the
Like,
music I felt was pretty good
the
going
music
with
was I was fucking jamming to it in my car this morning.
it.
Like, I really like the music. I like the whole like 80s aesthetic that they had, even though it was made in the 80s. So, but like,
I
I don't
really
know.
felt like old stuff really set the mood before like when you knew a hero was riding off into the sunset to get ready for the last battle or something
Yeah.
like that. You had the music that went with it too.
Yeah. And there's very much the music does very much go well and set the mood and set the tone for what's happening in this OVA. It's one that I think that everybody should actually check out and watch, especially if you're newer into anime. You can watch it on Retro Crush or Tubi TV. It might be on VRV. I'm not for sure,
Verve.
but to appreciate just like the amount of animation that was put into this, like, and like I know there's good animated stuff nowadays, but to just appreciate what has come before, because a lot of newer anime fans sometimes don't do that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, ew, anime. Nobody goes past, I don't know, 1999 when Naruto came out, or 2000.
Right. Well, I mean, even some stuff before that, because how many younger people have you ever heard? Hey, have you seen Inuyasha or Rurouni Kenshin?
Yeah, those are old anime. I mean,
Those are like ancient.
technically those are old animes now. Even like One Pieces came out in 99. Can you believe that?
Yeah, but
No, that
nobody will mention that because
no,
it's still ongoing.
yeah, but like I will have to admit there are the plot is kind of paper thin, but I still enjoyed this movie or this OVA quite a bit.
Well, let
Like,
me ask you one more thing.
okay,
Since earlier you said, "Hey, did you read the synopsis?"
uh-huh.
So, did you feel like the synopsis that we were given was actually based off of both the first and second part, or just the first part?
Just the first part.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless you're going off the Wikipedia page, which has 1 and 2 in it.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, like I, I admit this has flaws. It's not perfect by any nature. It's not. Um, it's very much boy finds bike, boy finds girl. They have a relationship, and they're in a fake world. That's pretty much what this comes down to.
Right.
Uh, like this is not going to be for everybody, but I do recommend everybody checking it out because it is fun. Now there are 2 different cuts of this
Well,
movie.
and the other thing is that I think this is a good portrayal of like our anime history
Uh-huh.
because like back in the day, if you were funded for part of your project, you still figure out a way to put it out some way
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you have that and somebody goes, "Oh yeah, well we're cutting the funding," most of the time you won't even see what that money had actually went to.
Yeah.
If they're short a little bit or whatever, they might have to sit there and build up the revenue or something to actually put it out. But you won't actually see it come out at all, until it's actually fully done. This one had to deal with the times of going from being a 13 episode series to being hacked down and then having to turn into an OVA miniseries, basically.
Yeah, that happened also with Gundam F91.
Yeah,
That was going to be like a 50 episode show. And they took what they had, I think of like they animated like 10 episodes. They took those 10 episodes and put it into a movie,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, I mean, the the ending is very much left to your own interpretation, and it very much kind of had somewhat of like a, oh, like that's it type of feeling towards me.
yeah,
But I do feel like this is an anime that I'm going to go back and revisit and rewatch. And I'm going like an onion, peel back the layers, and I'm gonna pick up on things that I missed the first time.
yeah.
Um, I'm looking forward to getting to the other two parts, or the other part at least to this. And I've heard mixed things about part 3.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Well, and I kind of want to know and you're the one that picks up stuff like this, not me.
Yeah.
Um, if you picked up like the DVD bundle or Blu-ray bundle for this
Uh-huh.
or whatever, if there would be any extra material to it at all.
So there are. Uh Hold on, let me get it. Let me go get the Blu-ray over here. It's sitting on my bookshelf as I walk over here.
1 hour later,
One
gosh, Mike, how far was your bookshelf?
1 hour later. So
Well, I had to drive across town and
so this comes with all 3 OVA films,
okay,
both English and Japanese, plus the Streamline Pictures English version, which are different. It comes with part 1 and part 2 uh, of the international editions, which are different, like dubs or cuts of the movie. So
yeah.
there's several different cuts of the movie. It comes with the Japanese commentary, English commentary.
Do
Uh,
you know when this one was dubbed?
yeah, it was early '90s, maybe.
Okay, because there were some voice actors in this that
So,
I felt like I knew a bunch of them.
so the one you probably watched was the ADV dub,
Okay,
because that's the one that I watched uh, on there. I have not watched the Streamline Pictures dub, but I do want to go back and check it out and see the differences for that.
okay,
Um, which I don't think that is streaming. It's only the ADV one I think is streaming. Because from what I remember, is the Streamline Pictures dub is cut down uh, a little bit,
okay.
and I think it has a different ending because they asked them to make a new ending to because the other one was so like gloomy and like
Yeah,
okay, like not the best probably, you know. So I do want to track that down and I want to watch it and see exactly how it is, because I had the subtitles on when I was watching this last night, and like even like the subtitles didn't necessarily match up
yeah,
to what was being said on some points, but so for some parts it was pretty accurate, but you do get like an art gallery and stuff like that, and it's a really nice Blu-ray set. It's like 20-25 bucks. It's not terrible. It's not terribly expensive, but I would recommend checking it out, because you do get the other cuts of the movie,
yeah.
and then I guess nothing special about part 3. everybody cares about part 1 and part 2. So
Yeah.
well, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, what would you rate this?
Out of 5,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go with a solid 3.
solid 3.
Yeah.
Even though I have problems with this, I had fun with it. I got to
Yeah.
go with the 5. I like this. I like this OVA. I thought it was fucking fun. It was. I had a fun time watching it.
We'll have to ask Papa Weeb what his is to get the true answer.
Why?
Because you're sounding a little biased there, buddy.
I mean, can I not be a little biased? I mean, I admitted that there were problems. Okay, I admitted that, and but I still had fun with it. I enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
that's all that matters. I'm not sitting here ripping you apart because you gave it a 3.
Hey, buddy, you usually give things 2.5, so.
This is a rare occasion.
I know, that's why I said biased. You're pretty soft on this anime, aren't you? Yeah, it's a sweet girl,
Hey, Megazone, give me your digits.
Oh my gosh. Goodness.
But if you have any questions or any suggestions, you can email us at otakuologypodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Instagram, DM us on Twitter or Instagram at Otakuology Podcast, and let us know what you think of the show. If you want to take some time and rate and review the show, let us know how we're doing. 5 stars would be preferred.
Hey, and if you do watch Megazone, watch it until you'll rate it as high as a 5 like Otaku Mike, or he'll come find you.
Let us know what your thoughts are on Megazone 2-3 Part 1.
But if your opinion isn't a 5, Otaku Mike will come find you.
Are you straight shooter 69?
Exactly.
Did you say blah 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 Otaku Mike is a dumbass bitch?
Yes.
We're gonna have to beat you down.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
But as always, guys, see you next Tuesday. Thanks for watching. And remember, Otaku Mike is a punk ass bitch, like he said. His words, not mine.